Welcome to the Draft Brewery. Today we have a very special magical creation to make. This is my sealed pool for the Standard Pauper Sealed League, hosted by Gwynedd. Got 43 players, and it's going to be 5 rounds of Swiss, cut to top 8. You got to choose which packs we wanted. 9 total packs. So should have somewhere around 90 commons. I probably messed up a little bit and dropped a few in editing my deck since it's a little tricky here. But yeah, so all standard legal sets up to 4. I chose 4 Theros, 4 M15, 1 Cons. I think M15 is the best set in this format to choose for sealed, mainly because in sealed you're gonna want unconditional removal spells like Lightning Strike and Flesh to Dust and Covenant of Blood. Triplicate Spirits is probably one of the best cards in the format. Same thing with Sanctified Charge. So you can already see a little preview. We have them. Other than that, I thought Nessian Asp was probably a very good card in the format. Same thing with Wingsteed Rider and Grey Merchant. So Theros, pretty powerful as well. Cons I chose mainly just for the shot at getting some fixing, and I did. I got 2 dual lands, which is nice. And M15 is also nice because of Evolving Wilds, which can be pretty great for fixing. And Theros and Born of the Gods and Journey into Nyx don't really have any fixing. There's like Opaline Unicorn and Traveler's Amulet. That's about it. Not the best. So I was going to go through my sealed pool and kind of show you some of my thoughts with the build and my process for doing this. So immediately, you don't need to rare sort in this, so you can already just kind of see, judging by number of playables, all colors are not created equal, and blue just got super shafted. So first thing I like to do is, cut the unplayables, and we'll start with blue. Just because there's very few cards here anyway. Yeah, so we have 5 playable goo cards, and they're all pretty medium. Nimbus Knight is good. We do have a blue land here, and we could splash an island, so we have 3 sources. So that's something to keep in mind, but in all intents and purposes, this is trash. Next, let's look at green. Green, we have a fixer in Blossoming Sands and this Abzan Ghoul. Abzan God. Let's see, cards in sealed are going to be different than the evaluations I would give them for standard Pauper. So a card like Vulpine Goliath, which is like pretty much never played in standard Pauper, gets the nod in sealed oftentimes because it's a pretty good win condition. Living Totem, solid. Verdant Haven, another fixer, in case we want to splash another color. Something to keep in mind there. Shredding Winds, probably not main deckable. Scout the Borders, probably not. Now I also do like the idea of the Undergrowth Scavenger self-mill deck, but didn't get any of that. Feral Invocation. Not the best. If we had some sort of aggressive heroic deck, it could be playable. Voiding Satyr's good. Community of the Gods now. So here you see a couple Scorpions, Abzan Guide, couple creatures. Still not that many good cards. 6. So I'm just gonna toss these guys. They don't look that good. Also of note, Bronze Sable, Double Will Forge Golem. That's pretty decent looking. they can pretty much go into any deck we want. So let's look at the white. We already saw Sanctified Charge, double Triplicate Spirits, very good. Inspired Charge, so now we have 2 overrun effects, which is great. Marked by Honor is okay. Warden, probably don't want to play that guy. Verdict, unconditional removal, very good and sealed. Scholar, very good, but he's a black card, so we'll put him in the black column. Pillar of Light, another fantastic card for sealed. Alseid, very good. Gunnerband Trailblazer, 3/2 for 3. He's kind of just filler, but he's fine. When you have double Triplicate Spirits, just any creature, it's pretty valuable. This 2-mana 1/3 is not great. Feat is very good. Shield is playable, but probably don't want it. Battlewise Valor for aggressive, that'll be good. Soulmender, it's playable with the Triplicate Spirits and the Willforge Golems, because every creature just, Lotus Petals you along the way. Oppressive Rays, again, for aggressive, that card's playable, but not all the time. Hopeful Eidolon's pretty great. God's Willing's pretty great. So white is insanely deep. It has about 14 to 17 cards that we can potentially play. Basically means some of those fringe cards require a little aggro shell to support them, or not very many cards, only like 6 cards, and there's already 3 playable artifacts here, so we don't really need much. White is likely our strongest color, so red or black should be a good pair for it here. So let's look at red. So the Scraplord Mongrel guy, which we have 2 of, is pretty good. If we play these 3 artifacts, 5/3 Trample for 4 potentially. Demolish, never playing that. Bring Low, not as good as Lightning Strike, but it's playable. Wild Celebrants, I guess if other people have cards like this, it's decent, but 5 mana for a 5/3. Guess it's close enough that it's sometimes being a Flame Tongue Kavu type effect, it could be good. Lava Axe, if we're really aggressive, sure. We could put these over here in the aggressive deck. And Sealed, I really don't like combat tricks unless you're forcing your opponent to block by being aggressive a lot of the time, or if they have red removal. Or even green removal, like all the Savage Punches and whatnot. Prowlers are okay. War Shriekers, kind of okay. This is a good 4-drop because it'd be a 6/6 trample. This card's pretty good because it can have evasion. This card's solid, except you have to be pretty heavy red for it to be reliably good. Rummaging Goblin's pretty sweet card for a control deck and sealed. This card's pretty good in aggressive deck. These 2/1 tramples are, again, in sealed I don't really like 2-drops unless we're going aggressive, so I guess all these cards fit the aggressive shell. And the other cards are good in slower decks or regular decks. Spark Jolt, probably not good enough. Hammer Hand, maybe in the aggressive shell. Clear Path, Cut, Crusader. Well, Crusader is playable with 1/2 Hammer Hand, 3 Battlewise Valor, 4 God's Willing, 5 Hypeful Eidolon, 6 Feet of Resistance, 7 Servant Alseid, 8 Marked by Honor. Okay, that's 8 targets. That's potential. So there's definitely a lot of playables, so Let's look at it. So now look at red, white, aggressive. I can't do this. Oh, this is ridiculous. I have to literally stack them, stack by stack. And now, that's so dumb. Okay. Well, if I'm going to sort by converted mana cost, I'm going to have to move these all out here anyway. Okay, 37 playables. Okay, well, that's a bit ridiculous. So, I don't know why, but you can't separate groups of creatures and spells, so I'm going to put my non-creature spells in a column over here. Probably not playing this in the fast version, so I'll just put that over here. So that just means we don't have any 5-drops, but these cards could easily be 5-drops. 4-drops have about 1 million. 3-drops. 3-drops are pretty solid. 2-drops. Couple of combat tricks, not really heavy on the 2-drops. And a couple 1-drops. And now I should actually put this as a 4 and this as a 5. So our creature curve, 5, 10, 17, 18. Wow, 22 creatures potentially. So there's just so many playables. So you want to see, with a deck like this, do we want to build it as fast as possible or slow as possible? And what incentives do we have for each? So we do have some removal spells, but it looks like our curve isn't that low. Actually, just it's like a stepping up all the way down to the 4-drop. We are very light on evasion. We have this Enforcer who gets bricked by a lot of things. His triplicate spirits and not a lot of other evasion, so it's interesting to note. Well, it's too many 4-drops. I think these 5/3 tramples is somewhat evasion, so they're just better on these prowlers. And we don't have enough 3-drops to make 2 guys to get this raid trigger, and that we're not using the black mana for anything per se, so it's a little weak. Rummaging Goblin, not for you, I don't think either. We just want to beat down as hard as possible. Soulmender, while it does help with Convoke, we got plenty of other creatures, and it just doesn't do it. It's just a 1/1 for 1, really, since we don't want that ability. So this creature curve looks perfect now. So now we have 4, 5, 9, 13, 16, 17. So we can support 6 spells, and that's it. So our best spells are the 2 overruns. And then if you notice, our next best spells, and just in sealed in general, we want to be playing all of our removal. So I would play Bring Low, Divine Verdict, Pillar of Light. That leaves us room for only one card out of all this. And we're likely going to be losing some of these targeted effects. So it already makes me think this card's not going to ever be good. So I'd cut him. Now we have room for 2 cards. This is not good. Like, all these extraneous spells are not as good now. Seismic Strike. We have a little double red, but kind of don't need that much early red. Probably don't want to rely on a 3-mana Shock or a 3-mana, Spark Jolt at times. Lava Axe could be nice, but not a card that I like in sealed. I just like the combat tricks. These give us evasion. Okay. That's 23. So now I do kind of Michael Jacobs school of thought. Sort by color. Count the mana symbols. Red, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Basically, add 1 if it's odd. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. So we want at least 5 red sources. So if Evolving Wilds is kind of like a half source. So we want to err on the side of caution. We'll just put in 5 mountain to start. And that's a minimum. That's the minimum for this. And we do have a double red, so we'll probably want more, but we'll see how much white our deck is asking of us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then these 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 symbols, but a lot of the times Triplicate Spirits doesn't require double white, but again, about 15, so we'll say 16. Divided by 2 is 8, so we want about 8 planes minimum. Boom. So there's our minimum mana requirements, and we still have 3 land slots available. And so now we just kind of need to see how early do we need white, how early do we need red. It looks like, we don't need white early. We do need red on turn 2 for this creature, who's not even that good, but it's a 2-drop. The +2/+2 in Battle Eyes card is actually a little bit better with it too, since this card has trample. And that card scries. But I like all of our creature spells and removal spells. So yeah, I think we don't need to make a combat trick a little better. So immediately we want red early, and then there's 1 double white. These want some double white, but the mana requirements of our deck just really aren't that bad. Definitely play the Evolving Wilds. The first red's definitely coming in. And then with 2 more slots open, I'll just split it evenly. Another red, another white. So it gives us Evolving Wilds. 7 mountain. And that must be 9 planes. Since we do have a lot more white cards, but once we have 1 red, we're pretty much set with red. So the Evolving Wilds is kind of like, it's pretty much a mountain most of the time. And let's see, how does this deck look? And looks pretty solid. Has some good removal spells, fairly aggressive. Lacks evasion, but it has a couple ways to protect its creatures. And yeah, so this deck looks pretty solid. This is the deck that I built immediately. When I first got the pool, the night that I got it, and a bunch of players wanted to challenge me just to practice. So I played this pool and crushed like 3 people that night, mainly off the back of Sanctified Charge and Inspired Charge. And I continued to look at the pool after that night just to see if I could figure something out, and I think I found a better deck. And it basically involves the black, which we haven't looked at yet. So let's cut all this red, and then let's add the black back in. Also, that Scholar of Atheros is the black card. Reevaluating some of these white cards too. Black's not going to be an aggressive deck. But yeah, those cards probably aren't good enough, so let's throw these guys in. Gray Merchant. Boom. Okay, another option we have is we can also splash this guy in green because we have this land and Evolving Wilds. Something to keep in mind. Okay. 4/4 lifelink seems really good for sealed. So this is 34 cards. Let's cut some of these black unplayables again. Seven. Okay, so now let's look at our good spells. Black Cat, a little weak. So this is 26. Child of the Night is an upgrade over that Satyr Rambler guy for sure. Scholar Rathros is probably one of the best win cons in this, all common sealed format. Absent Guide is pretty sweet since we can likely splash him. These 2 mana, 3 mana 2/3s, 3 mana 3/2s are pretty mediocre, but we do have ways to grow them and make them relevant, and hopefully they just stop the low drop guys. Every black permanent's pretty relevant too with Gray Merchant, since Gray Merchant does not look to be the best in this deck. Still seems kind of white heavy, but again, we don't really need white till turn 3 a lot of these games, but I imagine Freaka's Cure probably doesn't kill enough creatures, and we could side that in against a deck that has a lot of targets. This deck also looks like, since it's not as aggressive, God's Willing and Feet of Resistance aren't nearly as good. Sign of Blood, pretty great. Unconditional Removal, pretty great. Overrun just wins the game with Triplicate Spirits alone, pretty much can't cut it. March of the Returned, this card barely makes draft decks, but in a grindy sealed format, this card is just, often better than divination type effects because you're getting 2 spells back. It just requires that, you kind of draw this in the mid to late game. It's not the best in the early game, but as long as you're trading off some creatures, it can be pretty valuable, especially when you can rebuy an effect like Grey Merchant or redo Scholar or Abzan Guide. Even getting some Child of Nights back is not the worst. Doesn't get back the Triplicate Spirits though, so this card might not be the best. Still think it's pretty good though. It's probably better than the protection spells, but so we have to play this, and we have to play this. Coming to Blood is pretty great too. Convoke, so we can kill another big creature, or we can finish them and go to the face. So I do like one effect, and I think God's Willing is better since our deck's kind of mana intensive. We do have a lot of these 3/2s and 2/3s. Removal spells. We're a little susceptible to getting run over, but I don't think we need this feat. And without the guy that gets bonuses from this, it's just a 2-mana 2/1. It's a good curve filler, but we probably don't need it necessarily. I actually like it, and now that I'm looking at the build again, I just like creatures in this deck. If we're running 4 6-mana Convoke spells, 7-mana Convoke spells, and 2 pump effects, every creature in the deck just gets better by default. So looking at it now, again, after I already played my week 1 match, I probably would cut this March and just put it in the side. So I think this is how I would build it. And then throw in some lands. So we get Blossoming Sands, 1 Forest, 1 Evolving Wilds. When you count the colors, one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 black versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 white. So I need at least 6 black. 15, 16, about 8 white, which we already have the Blossoming Sands for though, so 7 white. So I need 1 more land. And again, we don't really need white early at all. We do need black early and double black, so and once we get 1 white, we're pretty much set. So this last slot needs to be swamp for sure, and that doesn't make black. This might find green a lot of the time. So 7 and 7, but we don't want more white. This might be okay. Since there's a lot more white cards. But I think I'm fine. It's because of the Blossoming Sands too. Just kind of err on the side of 1 extra black and go 8 black. That way our Evolving Wilds doesn't have to find black a lot of the time. 6 plains, Blossoming Sands for 7. Don't need white early anyway, yeah. Yep. So I like this deck. And this is pretty close to what I chose to play. So this is my Sealed League pool. Week 1, this is what I actually played in round 1. So let's see how different it was. Yeah, so the only card different, I think, was the Bronze Sable and the March of the Returned. And yeah, I think the Bronze Sable version is a little better, mainly because we curve out more often. It's another creature to help with our Convoke guys. Makes our pump effects a little bit better. This card can be dead in the early game, and is really only good if our creatures are trading off or they have removal spells that don't exile. So kind of a lot of things have to happen before this card really does anything. And we kind of want to be a little bit more about just putting creatures in play and then killing their creatures and then beating down a lot of those games and then just overrunning them. So off by a card from after playing, but I at least have 1 week of experience in with the deck so far, so I will do a replay analysis of that match in the next video here. And I would not fault anybody if they played red-white with this pool. Red-black, has some potential. And actually, I never even looked at it because I just thought the white was so good that you'd have to be insane not to play the white, but I'm not opposed to looking at it real quick. Because there's a number of effects that said, target creature can't block. And we just get to play very aggressive. So let's see if we can get an aggressive red-black deck. Necrobite, Freakus Cure. These cards all have potential. There's just so many playable potentials. Hammer Hands. Crusader. Probably not making the cut, but these Crippling Blights could probably be good if we're just attacking them like crazy. Okay. $33 playables, potentially. Again, March of the Return, not if we're being aggressive. Lava Axe, maybe. Necrobite, probably a little weak. Rummaging Goblin's a little weird with Seismic Strike because we want to discard extra lands, but then that card doesn't kill what you want it to kill all the time. I like Freakus Cure in this deck because we get to play a lot of 2-drops, and then we can just kill their 2-drop and attack. This deck looks pretty cool, actually. Really low to the ground. Other than Hammerhand, what do we have? Nothing. Necrobite. Yeah, it's not enough. Can't play this Crusader. Crippling Blight seems real sweet, though. So it just lets these guys, have evasion, which is really good. Goblin, not for this kind of deck. It's solid, but we need cuts, and we need a lot out of them. Okay. It's 3-drops. I mean, you just gotta play them. Just gotta fill your curve, really. These 4-drops. I guess you just gotta play them. 5-drop is too slow. Merchant we can play. Merchant's also really good with all these black permanents. So we have like max amount of black permanents in this deck. Still have like 6 cuts to make, and they're all going to be spells. Unconditional removal. Sign of Blood is too good, I think, because that can shock them to the face as well. I guess Crippling Bite's better than Hammerhand because it's a black permanent. 4 cuts to make, I guess, is these 4. Nah, Seismic Strike's gotta be better in this type of deck. We can cut a 4-drop. Freakus Cure, sideboard. Necrobite, it's pretty good with our small dudes. They can run into things and trade with anything. But I'd rather sideboard it. Lava Axe plus Covenant plus Sign in Blood is like nice bit of reach. So it's almost like, 5 points of evasion, which is pretty good. I could see that. So of our 4 drops, what's the worst? Probably this dumb 3/3. 4/3s seem pretty good. The Mongrels again seem really good if we're gonna run all ways. Maybe we could cut a Willforged Golem. It's not particularly aggressive, and we don't really want to be tapping out our creatures just to play a 4/4. We kind of just want to be beating down. Scrapyard Mongrels, giving them potential upside is really nice though. But as is, the Prowler and the Cyclops are just better. Lava Axe. Lava Axe is close in this deck. It's weird. It's just a weird balance. If we cut a golem, these mongrels aren't as good. We could cut the mongrels, and then we don't need the golems. I don't think the golems are very good. We just want to keep this deck as low to the ground as possible. Which means the mongrels are fine with or without the golems. But we'd rather have them with if we're going to play both. So... got Lava Axe. Boom. This deck looks pretty interesting. Like, now that I see it, I'll definitely potentially side into this plan if for some reason the other plan wasn't as good. Another thing to realize, this guy's pretty good with Necrobite, but they don't need to double block it ever really, so it's just nice that you could kill 2 guys. Can't really pump its power at all though, so Well, this deck's mana is a little heavy on red and black though, a little rough. So let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Black, so 12. So what about 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So at least 7 red. Okay, and a wild still with both. And then what do we want more of? Black or red early? Double black, double red, both, double red, double black. It's pretty even, so with Evolving Wilds and 17 lands, shouldn't it just be 881? Yeah. I play 881 and have a pretty smooth, consistent mana base. And this deck looks fairly sweet. So yeah, that's the Rakdos build. Had a decent Boros build as well. Actually, just think the white is a little too strong to not play. And ultimately went with the most controlling build in white black, but yeah, I don't know. If you watch this video and you think you have the beat on which build would be the best, it's kind of hard to figure out until you figure out the type of decks you're playing against. But let me know what you think was the best, and I'll be back for round 1 of the Sealed League matches. Thanks for watching.